On August 1st, 2023, there's a full moon in Aquarius. Pluto is still squaring the North Node and South Node, showing you where the power is. What does that mean for you? That's what we're going to talk about. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we're talking about the full moon. It's on August 1st. It's at 9 degrees of Aquarius. We're going to do a short overview, and then we're going to go sign by sign. So before we get into the chart, I wanted to address a comment that keeps reoccurring in the comments. And that is that when I say we are doing the energies, this person is saying I should say we are affected by the energies. And while this may be grammatically more correct, from a kind of spiritual or philosophical standpoint, I disagree. So if I say you are affected by the planets or the aspect, it feels like you're being caused to do something, that you're the passive recipient of this energy. And I don't believe that that's what's happening. Now, we really don't know why astrology works, but of course I've been doing this for many decades, so I've had time to think about it. And what I believe is that as we move through our lives, our energy creates ripples in the energy of the universe. You can kind of think of this as a little bit of a quantum entanglement of your past, present, and future. So in my mind, these ripples represent all of the directions you could take, all of the choices you could make. So, and then when you take a system like astrology or numerology or any of the other amazing modalities that are out there, and which each come with a set of rules, and when you apply that set of rules to the ripples in the universe, you can read the potential direction that people could go, the choices that they're likely to make. Now, I don't know exactly which choice you're going to make. I just see where your tendency would be or where you're likely to go. And the reason I can't see exactly is you do have free will, and everyone makes different choices. And this is why, not everybody born on Joe Biden's birthday is president. But because of the ripples that we make in the universe, everybody born on Joe Biden's birthday has the potential to be president of something. The president of their PTA or their homeowners association or the president of a large company or the president of another country. So there's that potential. And so what we are seeing is the ripples of energy. And that's why I say that you're doing the energy, that you're not affected by the energy. Now, my opinion in this may not be shared by a lot of astrologers. I haven't checked in. It certainly wasn't shared by the ancient astrologers. There was this idea that the planets were affecting you. I just don't think that's the way it's happening. Okay, let's look at the chart. So we have an Aquarius full moon, and Aquarius is about being yourself, and no matter what's going on in the world. And so if we consider the full moon as the party, this is kind of like, you're Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, and you're showing up to the party in your bunny suit, and you don't care. You are expressing who you are. And hopefully at the same time, you are allowing others to express who they are, and that's how new friendships and connections can be formed. Now, additionally, Pluto is at 28 degrees of Capricorn now, and it's making a perfect square to the North Node and South Node. And that means that everything in your life, you are seeing deeper meaning. Everything has significance, that your emotions are heightened. This can mean that you are judging every situation as whether it's good or bad, win, lose, whether it's going to be safe or threatening. And in this very noisy world that we live in, it can be really hard to hear, the directions from the universe. And so we use the chart now to say, all right, where is power and how can we get our power back? And to hear this information, it may be necessary for you to go outside and be in nature, to maybe listen to the birds or to listen to the sounds of nature so that your higher self can have time to speak to you. You may feel very much on guard right now because of this Pluto aspect. You may be assessing your strengths and weaknesses and the strengths and weaknesses of those around you. You might be cautious right now about who you are hanging out with and what you're paying attention to. It's very important at times with a Pluto square like this to be around people who are positive and who have like-minded ideas, not so that you're in a total echo chamber, but so that you can feel that you're okay being you and that you can express being you until you're strong enough to go express in the world. So the aspect to Pluto means that you are assessing power. And that is that you are looking at your life situations and deciding who has the power in the situation. And of course, the power always has to come back to you. So, but you might say to me, well, I need a paycheck, so I have to do what my boss says. And yes, to some extent that is true, but you also have the power to go get a different job or to build something on your own. So, or you might say, well, I'm in a relationship, so I have to do what my partner says. And again, to some extent that is true, that some compromises need to be made. This is something that I tell people who they're single and they so desperately want to be in a relationship, but the reason they're not getting that relationship is because they don't want to give up all of the privileges of being single and, listening to someone else and compromising, etc. So, it's part of being in a relationship, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're giving your power to that person. You still can have independent thought and decide what it is that you want, and then sit down with your partner and discuss it. So in this whole power dynamic, you might determine that your power rests with somebody else, and in the process of getting it back, of course, some action is needed, and that's what the North Node in Aries is about. But before you do that, before maybe you can do that, maybe the first step is just to intend to pull your power back, to intend to look for the new job, to intend to sit down with your partner and say why you want to do certain things and to see if you can win them over. And from there, then the small steps can start to happen of putting together the resume or, as I said, sitting down with your partner. So, but if you can't pull your power back immediately, well, then just intend to do so. And that starts the process. Now, the other thing about this chart that is very interesting is there's not a lot of aspects. And so when I start to go through sign by sign, you're going to hear me say a lot, like you're kind of in a holding pattern. And that, I think, lends itself very well to, pausing for a moment and listening to your higher self and figuring out your new direction as the North Nodes, have changed signs and this Pluto square is happening. So, but the one aspect that is most prevalent in this chart is the inconjunct. So that is sometimes called the quincunx. When I was a little baby astrologer, I learned inconjunct, so I call it an inconjunct. And so the inconjunct energy is about making an adjustment. Now, all aspects are both positive and negative. They have a positive side, or they can be done in a negative fashion. And so this can be an adjustment that you make, or a maladjustment, like you're adjusting in an incorrect direction. So an adjustment would be like a detour, like you go to the restaurant to have shrimp and they're out of shrimp. So you're either going to have the chicken or you're going to go to a different restaurant. You make an adjustment. And so while it doesn't have to be negative, it's certainly inconvenient. And so as you are going through this next 2 weeks, inconveniences are going to pop up. And the most positive thing to do with the inconjunct is to hit the obstacle and go around, just like water does when it hits a rock. It just moves around it, versus standing there and being angry with the rock that's in the way. And so that's what this inconjunct is about, is to teach you more about how to just slalom through life and its obstacles. All right, for this video, we are doing tropical Western astrology. It's good to listen to your rising sign, as this is going to tell you more about what's happening to you. If you don't know your rising sign, I'd be happy to send you a copy of your chart. There's a link in the description to my website where you can message me with your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, and I'll send you a copy of your chart. If you don't know your time of birth, I'll still send you the copy of your chart. You won't get to know your rising sign. You'll need to actually look at different rising signs and start to pinpoint which one fits because, you know, in the course of a day, each of the rising signs happens. So that's 12 different signs. So, but it's still very worthwhile to have your chart because you'll most likely know where your moon is, you'll know where all the other planets are, so it can be helpful. If you would like to know more in depth about what's going on for you with this North Node change, with Pluto square and being back in Capricorn and all that, I do readings. There is a link in the description for more information. I also have some books out and some courses. The latest course is Tarot Reading the Natural Way. I am doing some tarot videos, and so you can learn more about this and my methods of reading the tarot through those videos. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of friendships, community, and the future. And so this is that going out and going to the parties and being around other people can bring you some really important insights into yourself and the things that you're looking for. This is also true with groups and organizations. So joining a group or going to the meetings and being around people is really good. And that can help plant some seeds for your future. Now, Pluto is going through your house of career and reputation. And so that's where you're challenged about taking back your power. And that might be that you don't feel like you're doing the thing that you want to be doing, maybe because you don't feel you have the training, or it's hard to get into, or perhaps it's not the expectations of your family, or there could be other reasons that you are holding yourself back. And, you know, Pluto can give you this idea that you have to make some sort of big switch or transition, but it actually is a very slow moving planet. And so things can be done over time. And so when it comes to your career, look at how you can take the baby steps towards the direction that you want to go, whether that is looking into school, doing some studying, starting the business on the side. You know, and businesses are just, they're built one customer at a time. They do take time. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mars is making a semi-sextile to the sun. So, and the sun is in that house. And so there is an opportunity to meet someone for a love relationship. It's interesting because, you know, this is about new love, but Venus is retrograde in that house. And so this might be someone that you dated once before, maybe just once or twice, or that you've seen them in passing, and so then you can get together. So there is something familiar about the person. It's possible that they look like someone from your past, but I think that you met them before. Now, the semi-sextile does say there's some little obstacle that you have to get past to get this date happening, possibly, you know, just trying to blend your schedules. So, but you do have an aspect, which is rare this time, as I talked about in the opening, and so there is an opportunity for you. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Mars. And because Venus is retrograde, they're actually getting farther apart. And this means that the two of you are off doing your own things. You're not really coming together, not for fun, not to work on the relationship. You're basically just kind of going and doing, you know, like your separate stuff. And so that's not, you know, it's 2 weeks. And so it's not this big sign for the relationship. If you are like trying to work on the relationship, you might want to just sit back for this 2-week period because it's going to be hard to find a meeting of the minds. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is now retrograde, which says go back to ideas you were thinking of before. And that could be over a whole 12-month period of different ideas that you had. If you wrote these down, look through your notes. If you had started something and abandoned it, go back and look and see if it needs to be tweaked or if there's something viable that you can bring forward. So you definitely have some money opportunities here, but they are connected to the past. Now, when it comes to money from your business or from your investments, that Venus is making an inconjunct with Pluto, which means that there are profits, but it's not the most direct route. There's something where if you make an adjustment, you could get more money. And so that might be an adjustment in your prices. It may be an adjustment in terms of how somebody's paying you and that they're willing to pay more money if they get some different terms. This is also about making some adjustments in your investments, and that can lead to profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, Venus is making a square to Uranus. Now, that is a very strong aspect, very powerful for bringing in something from your career. Plus, the full moon is lighting up that house, which is money derived from career. So therefore, this is a time where you might want to check in once again about a raise. Check in and say, hey, we talked about this before. Let's, go over it again. Maybe now you can get the raise, or at least get the promise that that raise is going to happen in the future. So you're doing some really good energy for that over this next 2 weeks. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this full moon right at the top of your chart. That it's just like there's a big spotlight on you right now. That means you're more visible. And so things that you put out on social media can reach a larger audience or reach the person that you really needed to reach. It also says in your career that your star is lit. And so if you're looking for a new job, this is the time to post your resume. If you want to sit down with your current boss and talk about your future, this is the time to do it. So you have really good energy in these areas. Now, when it comes to Pluto and looking at your power and the power dynamics, Pluto is in your house of education and belief systems. And so if you don't feel like you have the education that you need, this is a time to start thinking about how you can acquire it, how you can pull that back to you. Now, if it's some, ideas that it needed to be a certain degree from a certain college and all that, maybe it's time to rethink that and see if that is still the case these days, because that energy is really changing, especially in the United States. This is also about belief system and looking at where you have disempowering beliefs, where you believe that something else is out of your choice, out of your control. And, that's not to say that everything is in your control. Of course it's not. But sometimes we can set it up so that we feel that things that are in our control are not. And that can be very disempowering. So looking at what you believe about the universe and luck and how things come together and challenging those beliefs if they are not serving you. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Venus, but you do have Mercury and Mars in that house. So there is some positives here that kind of get me thinking that you could meet someone, but you don't quite get together for the date. Like maybe you're just talking by text or by phone, but to that actual first meeting, maybe that is delayed for some reason. It also is that, maybe you're going to the party and you're not mingling, and so the person's on the other side of the room. And so right now there is that little tiny impediment to meeting someone. This energy is going to clear up and be better for you in the future. So you may just want to hang back for the next 2 weeks and not think about it. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making an inconjunct to Pluto, and Venus is retrograde. So this is about rehashing something from the past, but instead of rehashing it the same old way, it is time to look at how you can make an adjustment. Sorry, I was just thinking about the word rehash. And so the whole idea is hash is where you take a bunch of leftovers and you make an entirely different dish out of it. And that's kind of what you need to do with this inconjunct, is look at the things that bother you about your partner and ask yourself, are these things that are actually within you and they are just mirroring things that you were already thinking? Or is there a different way that you can respond to what your partner is saying that will change the direction of the conversation? So this is what this inconjunct is about. Now, when it comes to friendships, Venus retrograde is making an inconjunct to Neptune. And so this is about going back into a situation where you can meet some friends. The going back might be that this is a community you've been in before, or a meeting you've gone to before, and maybe it didn't, give you much the first couple of times. But if you go back now during Venus retrograde, something could happen. This also could be that maybe you started an acquaintance with someone and it fell away. Now it can come back. It is an inconjunct, so it does mean it takes a little effort on one or both sides. But if you're looking for friendships, you have an aspect. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury that is in Virgo, in your house of creativity and also risk-taking. So this is about looking at the risky thing that you're thinking of doing to make money and breaking it down into really manageable steps. And that is to say, what is the smallest step I can do to make this move forward? If you're thinking about riskier investments, this Mercury in Virgo would say, read all the fine print, go out and read the reviews, listen to the experts, and then decide. So this is very much about doing due diligence. Virgo is about getting into the weeds of things and really finding out the details. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Mercury is not making an aspect with Jupiter. And as I said at the beginning, there are not a lot of aspects happening right now. So over the next 2 weeks, you're making about the same as usual. This is a full moon time, so it's not like you're starting new things. This is more just monitoring what you already have in place and, servicing the customers that you have rather than making a push outward. So I think you're making about the same as usual. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so that's like a paycheck, there is no aspect between Mercury and Neptune this time, but the moon is elevated and it's a full moon. So there is something where maybe you are getting the job now. And so there might be a little time for salary negotiation or negotiating some perks, or you have the boss's attention, and so then you can ask for a favor. But otherwise, you're making about the same as usual. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of education. This is also travel, legal matters, and belief systems. And so you might be finishing up something about education now. I mean, it's an odd time of the year to be doing that. But maybe this is that you are securing a position that you're going to do in the fall, or you're just getting, the final steps done, for what roommate you're going to have at your dorm, etc. If you're doing legal matters, this is about, some sort of completion of it. So filing the motion, going to court, things like that. And that is really lit up. And so you may be saying to yourself, all right, well, how is that going to go? Well, this moon is quite harmonious energy with your own Gemini sun or Gemini rising. So that bodes well. If this is about belief systems, then it is lit up that you are, looking at your personal philosophy or your religion and saying, getting closer to, the spiritual forces, or feeling like, all right, I'm going to really embrace, Stoicism or Zen or something like that. And then I don't know if I mentioned travel, but you might be on a trip. And that can be so enlightening anyway, that's why you're having that spiritual sort of awakening. Now we see Pluto in your house of resources from others, and that's where this power dynamic is, and this idea that, if you're going for a loan, that the bank can say no, which they can, but there's more than one bank. And so this is about looking at not focusing on one resource, but seeing that there's a myriad of resources. I mean, there's so many these days, and people have access to so much. I was thinking the other day of how, like, my mother used to say, well, where did you learn that? And I thought that was such an odd thing for her to say. But of course, at the time, there was no internet. The library only had certain hours. When she was asking that, I think it was like real, like, where did you learn that? Versus nowadays, we would never say that because we know everybody can learn everything on the planet because we have access to so much information. So this Pluto is about, where the power dynamic is. If you feel like, well, that information is cut off from me, it is separated from me, then you have to go to another source. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Venus, and Venus is retrograde. And so this makes it difficult to meet somebody new. Now, you may try to reconnect with someone from your past, but even that, because there's no aspect, kind of is hit or miss, like your schedules aren't syncing up, or you call and they don't answer, or vice versa. So you may want to just not work on this for the next 2 weeks. And when it comes to existing relationships, there's no aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter. But in this, neither of these are retrograde. And so this is just, they're out of sync at the moment, but they are going to sync up and quite harmoniously pretty soon. So this more means that the two of you are just going about your day-to-day stuff and not really working at the relationship, and maybe not even interacting as much as usual, because you're busy doing other things. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that full moon that is lighting up your house of education and ideas. And so this is a time where you could have huge ideas, lots and lots. And by the way, if you don't, there is Chat GPT out there, and you could just say, give me 50 different ways of making passive income on the side, and it will come up with all kinds of ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of. So this is a time where you're right now an idea generator. And so you could find different ways. And because the moon is lit up in this house where it's also about writing and journaling, and so you might want to write these ideas down or talk them into your phone so that you have them. So when the time comes to work on them, you've got the ideas there. Now, when it comes to money from business or from your investments, you're making a little bit more than usual. The moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn, so you are doing an aspect, but it's not a super strong one. And that means that, like your stocks might go up just a smidge, and maybe you're going to take the profits, maybe not, or, somebody does one little upsell, or you sell just a little bit more than usual. Now, this is a semi-sextile, so that means that there's also a little extra work attached to this. If you don't do the extra work, then you make about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, which is like a paycheck, the moon is making an inconjunct to Mars. And that means that, yes, you can get a raise, but it will have some strings attached. And Mars is in Virgo, so the strings could be more work, more hours, or maybe working on a project that you're not so interested in. So you do probably want to wait to ask until this lines up better, which it will pretty soon. So, but in the meantime, if you are willing to negotiate with your boss, then you could make more money in your job over the next 2 weeks. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of resources and investments. This is also your area of taxes. And so maybe for some reason you're finishing up your taxes now. And that's quite possible. Or you are really paying attention again to your investments. And because this just lights it up. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you're making some big decisions about it now, but it's in your awareness. And that's a good time to be making notes of, what your decision-making process was to get you into the investment and how it's going now, and then looking at what you want to do about it over the next couple of weeks. Now, when it comes to Pluto, Pluto is going through your house of relationships, and that's where the power dynamic is. And so this could be a power dynamic going on between you and your partner. And so oftentimes in a power dynamic, one or both of you want the other to change. And so you're trying very hard to get the other person to, shift one direction or another. And maybe to shift the power back to you, you decide that they don't have to change, but that you're going to change, because that is totally within your power. This also can be this idea that it's not your love relationship, but this is a collaboration with someone, and this idea of waiting for somebody of authority to choose us, to say, oh, you get to have the music contract, or you get to be, the author who gets the book signing, or things like that. That dynamic has shifted so much with the internet that now we don't have to wait to be chosen. We can, do videos, we can put music out there, we can publish books, we can do these things. And so that is where the power shifts back to you, where you don't say, oh, look, I have to wait until somebody says this stuff is good. You can just put it out there and continue to improve it, and then the audience will find you. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's not making an aspect with Pluto. And as I said at the beginning, there's not a lot of aspects in this chart. So this is more of a time where you just wait. You just pull back, work on yourself, do other things, because this energy, especially for your chart, lines up more quickly than others. So because you're ruled by the moon, and the moon is the fastest of all of our planets. I know the moon's not a planet, but from an astrological standpoint, let's say it is. So therefore, this is going to line up pretty quickly. It's just not lining up over this next 2 weeks, because we use this chart to represent the 2 weeks. And so therefore, go work on something else, because this love relationship possibilities will be coming in the future. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn. And this means your relationship can improve if you can stop getting tripped up by the little things. If there's some small thing that is really irritating you, maybe see if there's some way that you can change something externally without changing your partner to make things better. For example, like if you get irritated that they aren't hitting the laundry basket, maybe you need an open laundry basket, or maybe you need a bigger one, or maybe it needs to be in a different place. So to look at a small change like that versus having to have an argument with your partner, that's what this is about. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the sun, which is in your house of money, and Venus is there too, and it's retrograde, bringing you back some money opportunity from the past. So this is not only the potential of getting paid by somebody who owes you or having customers return, but this is also lit up for new ideas, probably based on some past thing that you did, some derivation of something you've done before, but you have really good energy for generating new ideas when it comes to making money. Now, when it comes to money from business or from your investments, the sun is not making an aspect to Uranus, but those houses are lit up because of the full moon. So I think that there's some opportunities, but I think that the profits actually will come outside the 2-week period. So that means you could make more sales or see stocks going up. It's just that the actual money doesn't hit your account just quite yet. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, the sun's not making an aspect with Venus. You do have a pretty good chart here, though, because the North Node is out of that house. That helps. Jupiter is in that house. So I think you're close. I think you're just waiting for this energy to line up, which it will, and that'll be the time to ask. So if somebody comes to you, they may mention it, but again, I think that they'll schedule it for a future date when this energy lines up. Okay, Leo, you are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of relationships, partnerships, and collaborations. And this is a full moon, so that means go to the party. Go to the things you're being invited to. If somebody asks you on a date, consider it. If somebody says, let's, collaborate or do a partnership, consider it. This is a time where this area is lit up for you. It doesn't mean you have to do everything, but it does mean that if you think it through and see if it's in line with your goals, that's good, because that's why it's lit up. Now, when it comes to Pluto, Pluto is going through your house of routines and habits and anything that has you kind of on automatic pilot. And it is where we're shifting the power dynamic. And so that is, if the majority of your day is on automatic pilot, it is time to stop and say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this way? Is there a better way to do it? Or taking some aspect of your routine and flipping it so that your whole day is different. Maybe moving exercise to the evening instead of the morning and see if it works out better for you, or putting your creative project first before you go to work, and so that you can get stuff done on it. So like shifting something big about your daily routine, and it's going to be very beneficial because the power comes back to you. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun is making a square to Jupiter. That is really excellent energy. The sun is in your sign, so starting your new 12-month cycle. There is so much good energy here. The full moon's lighting up your house of relationships. So you want to put yourself out there, meet people, ask somebody out, say yes when they ask you out. There's good energy for you for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though the sun's not making an aspect with Uranus, the full moon is happening in these houses. And so your relationship is going well. And if you feel it's not, you can make tweaks about it now. And those seeds that you're planting, well, again, this is a full moon, so you're planting during a full moon. So you're not going to get a huge harvest, but maybe this is a time to focus really on what is working and not focus on what's not working. And so if you're going to be taking in a harvest, you aren't going to be going over to the field where it didn't grow. You're going to actually be picking the fruit off of the vines that did grow. So that's the thing to focus on for your love relationship over the next 2 weeks. When it comes to friendships, the sun is making a semi-sextile to Mercury. So there is an opportunity to meet someone who could be valuable in your life. So you do want to, again, go to the party, accept the invitation, or maybe ask someone to coffee. It's probably something you've been thinking about for a while, and now take action on it. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Mercury, which is in your house of money. So there is money out there to grab. This is things that you've been working on for a while. Again, this is a little bit of harvest happening right now. It's like pulling these ripe fruits from the tree. So there are money-making opportunities for you. This energy is moving to line up even better in the future. And so this is a time where you really want to focus on actually bringing in the money. Now, when it comes to money from investments or from your business, even though that Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, as I said, Mercury is in that house, Mars is in your money house, it's making a trine to Jupiter at the top of your chart. You've got some really good energy. I think that a lot of the profits that you're securing now may not come into your account for 2 weeks. That's okay, because you know that it's on its way. And then when it comes to money derived from career, you're doing really good energy for asking for a raise or asking for more perks. Mercury is moving to conjunct Mars, which is trine the Jupiter. I love this energy for you. Jupiter's at the top of your chart in your house of career. So this is a time to sit down with your boss and say, look, we've been dancing around this idea of giving me a raise for a long time. Let's actually, put some numbers on paper and make this happen. Okay, Virgo, this full moon is lighting up your area of health, well-being, also your daily routines and your work. And so this is what's important right now, is to, tweak health routines to get yourself back on track, or notice that your health routines are doing well for you. And then also other daily routines, getting in some time for meditation or taking a walk, or that you have some work-life balance if that's what you're looking for. This is also a good time to be working with team members on bigger projects, because there's more harmony in the workplace. Now, when it comes to Pluto, Pluto is going through your house of risk-taking, creativity, self-expression, and it's it's talking about where the power dynamic is. And that is, do you feel empowered to create? Do you feel empowered to take the risks that you want to take? Creating can take so many different forms these days. And it's so funny because we're living in the beginnings of AI, and we're probably all wondering, how much AI is going to take away from creativity in the world. But, back when dinosaurs were roaming the earth and I was younger, I worked in the film industry. And during that time, they were talking about, there's only going to be a few studios and, only a few television studios as well. And what's going to happen is so few movies are going to get made. It's going to get less and less. There's only going to be blockbusters. And now we know nothing is further from the truth. It's such an explosion of movies and television, and everybody's just wanting more and more and more. And this is what's going to happen with all types of creativity. The AI revolution is just going to give us more powerful tools to use to create what's in our minds and our hearts. And so this is about taking back your power in this area and reminding yourself that you can create, that there are going to be opportunities, and to look around at what you can do now. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's making an exact opposition to Saturn in relationship houses. This is a really good time for you to meet someone new, especially if you're looking for a serious relationship, somebody who is going to stay with you for, forever. So this is a time to go out with somebody that you've been talking to, if you've filled out the applications, but you haven't put your pictures up on the matchmaker website, things like that. Get this happening. Go to the party. Go, take the invitation and show up. This is a time where you could meet someone for a love relationship. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though Mercury's not making an aspect with Neptune, as he said, there's a very strong opposition right now between Mercury and Saturn. And that is that the two of you could do Saturn to each other, which is walls and restrictions and complaining and all of that. Or you could come together for a real purpose to build something. And so talking about building a home together or building a life together, that's the thing to be working on right now in your love relationship. When it comes to friendships, the moon is making an inconjunct to Mercury. Now, Mercury is in your own sign, so you are noticeable, which is great. The inconjunct says it is difficult to get to the venue or the party or whatever the event is because you look like you're working pretty hard. So, but if you can make the time, you could meet someone for a friendship. And this will be a person who's not your typical type of friend. They are different somehow, which means they know lots of different people and they have different ideas, and that can be very helpful. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Venus, which is in your hidden house and it's retrograde. And that can mean that it feels like money is not there, like you're not able to grasp hold of it. The solution here is to tap into spirituality or tap into feng shui or magic to do those types of rituals that put you in alignment and in harmony with the energy of money. And so that might mean that you are going around and dusting your feng shui cures or moving them around, or maybe you're sitting with a candle and meditating about it. Maybe you are just sitting visualizing opportunities, like sitting there watching the traffic go by and saying, oh, there's a person who could be a customer. There's a person who could be a customer. Even that could bring you more money. Now, when it comes to money from your business or from investments, Venus is not making an aspect with Mars, so you're making about the same as usual. The North Node's now in that house, and that means it's time to look at your business and finances from a different perspective to say, okay, if this hasn't been working in the past, what can I change? What can I tweak? This is going to go on for 18 months, so it's not just in this next 2 weeks. And I do have a video coming out about the North Node in Aries, and so you can check that out, and that'll give you some more tips about how to activate that energy. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, the moon is not making an aspect with Venus. So this is not the best time to be asking for a raise. If you're in the process of it, you may just want to put it on hold for a little bit. Or if they're coming to you, then you can allow this to happen. But otherwise, this is not a time to be pursuing it because the aspect's not lining up. Okay, Libra, this full moon is lighting up your area of creativity, fun, personal expression. And so this is the time to go to the party. It is, like accept the invitation, go meet people and connect. And if you don't have a party invitation in hand, create your own party, host a party, go find something that's fun to do. This is a time to look and experience something enjoyable. Now, Pluto is going through your house of home and family, and we're talking this time about the power dynamic. And so, first of all, just talking about the home itself, if the home feels out of control, like there's too much clutter or things are just not getting into their place, this is a time to take back that control, to take back the power. If the power dynamic is going on with family members, then that is something, of course, because of this transit you've been working on for a long time. And it does mean, because this transit has been going on in this house for so long, you do have a lot of insights into it. But right now, because it's making the square with the North Node, South Node, a lot of what you've learned is coming into play. And so that is to recognize that yes, your parents are, they have some authority in your life. That's true. But they are also just human beings, and they're doing what they can. And sometimes we set them up as, well, you're supposed to be my mom, and so you're supposed to do, X, Y, Z. But the person themselves isn't capable of that. And we have to say, all right, if I need that, I have to get it from a different source. So this power dynamic, again, that I'm talking about is something that's just being highlighted now because of the square to the North Node, South Node. That is, you can go do the different thing, to say, all right, I will accept you're a person and that I'm going to go find what I need somewhere else. Or it's to do the South Node and get stuck in the old pattern. And I know you're not going to do that. So this is what's going on with Pluto going through your house of home and family. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a square to Uranus, and the full moon is lighting up that house. So things are very, very good in this area. That means you do want to say yes to the date. You do want to, go to the party, like I said, or invite people to come to a party, invite someone to coffee. Take some chances in this area because the energy is lit up in your favor. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Mars. And so that means that everything's just going along as normal. But because the moon is lighting up your house of fun, it would be really good for the two of you to do something fun together. Maybe you haven't been on a date in a while. Maybe you haven't done anything fun because you're so busy, with your lives, etc. So this is a time to just carve out maybe just a couple hours to have a good time. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Pluto that, we've talked about for a long time, about it being in that area of foundations at the base of your chart, but also that Mars. Now, Mars is in Virgo, and it's sitting in your house of spirituality and magic. And so this is a time where you want to activate that side so that you can bring in money by aligning yourself to the vibration of money. That can be done through meditation or affirmations, or moving feng shui cures, to lighting a candle and sitting in front of the candle and picturing money coming to you. These sort of actions, which we don't necessarily spend a lot of time doing, those can be very helpful right now for bringing you more money. Now, when it comes to money from investments or from your business, you look like you're making more than usual. Venus is making an inconjunct to Pluto. Now, an inconjunct is not the easiest of aspects, but it says if you're willing to make an adjustment, then you get some sort of reward. So this could be that, the client wants to see you, but they want to see you on a Sunday morning, or, a day you don't normally work, or, the customer wants a little tweak here, but they're willing to pay extra for it. So So this is where you make some adjustments in your investments and you get some profits. So this is looking good for you making more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, the sun's not making an aspect with Pluto. It's making a semi-sextile, though, with Mars. So there is a small chance of making a little bit more. I don't know if that's going to be enough for it to be even worth it. So you may just want to wait until this aspect lines up in the future. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this full moon right at the base of your chart. This is in home and family. And so there may be more interaction with family, maybe a family reunion, or you're getting to see some family members you haven't seen in a while. This is also about the dwelling itself. And so you might finish up some renovations, you might do some little bit of decorating touches or things like that that just really change the energy of the house. Now, when it comes to Pluto, and you have more access to Pluto energy than most because it does rule your chart, but Pluto is going through your house of thinking process, paperwork, how you communicate. And so looking at where that power dynamic is, especially, in your own head, if you're feeling like you would like to control the thoughts that you have, that's very, very hard to do because thoughts just bubble up. But what you can control is how you deal with those thoughts. Are you going to hold on to them and think them over and over and over again? Or are you going to just let them go and go, well, that was random. So the better way here is to not be controlled by thoughts, and that's the reason that people study meditation, because meditation is you exercising that power to recognize the space between no thought and having a thought. And as that space increases, you're more able to say to yourself, oh, I feel a negative thought coming on, I'm not going to have that right now. Versus when you don't meditate, the negative thought comes in and you can say still, I'm not going to entertain that, but it's harder because the thought is there. So, working on meditation, empowering yourself through thinking and, deciding what it is that you're going to focus on, that's what this Pluto is about. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Pluto's making this sextile with Neptune, but you don't have a lot of other things over the next 2 weeks that say, woo, this is the time to go out with somebody new, because, the full moon's at the base of your chart, and so it's at home. And so unless you already live with the person and then they're your roommate and now they're going to become your relationship, I guess that could happen. But otherwise, you just probably want to wait until after this 2-week period when the energy lines up better. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making an inconjunct to Pluto, and that means the two of you could come together, make some adjustments, and make the relationship better. And this could be something that's been in the works for a while, something that you just say, you know what, I'm going to make the change, and then we'll see what happens. Yes, sometimes Scorpio energy can be very fixed and doesn't like to make a change, but Scorpio energy does like to experiment. And so this would be an opportunity to try something new and see what happens. Now, when it comes to friendships, Mercury's making an inconjunct to Pluto, and it's moving to conjunct Mars. So this is actually a really good time to accept invitations for groups or parties or to meet somebody new, because you do have opportunities. Now, it does to me feel like, because the inconjunct is out of sign and the conjunction hasn't quite lined up yet, this would just be a first meeting. This isn't actually the starting of the friendship, but just kind of getting there so they, you can see them, they can see you, that sort of thing. So you don't need high expectations for this. It's just, if you get the invitation, you might want to go. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Jupiter, which is in your house of partnerships, collaborations, mentors, etc. And so that energy is very, very good. It's pulling people to you. Plus, this Jupiter is making an exact trine to Mars. So that does mean that something is happening. That could be something that you have been working on for the last couple of weeks. Now the customer's signing. Now the person's saying they're going to work with you. Now things are coming to fruition. So you want to keep your eyes open because something you've been working on is now ready to harvest. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, you're making about the same as usual because that Mercury, while in a harmonious sign with Jupiter, it's not quite lined up yet. So you're going to have to wait a little bit to actually get the money in your hands. So you do have good energy, but the profits aren't quite here yet. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, even though, again, there's no aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter, Mercury's in that house and Jupiter's in your house of others where you could connect with your supervisor on a one-on-one basis or a one-on-one level. And so this is a time where if those seeds aren't planted yet, if you haven't really started to talk about it, maybe this is the time to say, let's set up a time in a couple of weeks to talk about this and at least get that invitation happening. Okay, Sagittarius, you're doing this full moon in your house of paperwork, thinking process, neighbors, siblings, also transportation. And so you might be buying a car during this time. It's also possible that you have more interaction with siblings, you know, that you haven't seen them in a while and you're coming together to chat or have a party. It could be you're dealing with a contract that you've been waiting for and now it's on your desk and you can read it over and decide whether you're going to sign it. So you're doing some good energy around these things right now. Now, Pluto, where we've been talking about the power dynamic, is going through your house of money. It has been for a long time, slowly transforming your relationship with money and your relationship with your own sense of worthiness. And so now, as it's in this crossroads with the North Node, South Node, you get an opportunity to test some of the things you've been working on. Are you going to move towards a sense of deserving and say, I'm empowered to keep track of my money, to invest my money, to make more money? Or are you going to fall into old habits? And so that's where the power dynamic is. You know, for a lot of people, this power dynamic is involving others, but this one is centered just on you. And so this is kind of a battle within yourself of saying, I'm going to go do the things that maybe you see as harder, but they are definitely more profitable, by taking your power and saying, you know, there's money out there. I'm going to figure out how to get it into my hands. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mars is making a trine to Jupiter. It's an exact trine. Like, it's really good. So this means if you've been thinking about going out with someone, it's time to ask them out. If you have a party invitation in hand, go to the party. There is somebody to meet there. This is a time to say, all right, I'm in. I'll say yes. Say yes to the date. Say yes to the coffee opportunity. This is a time to be open and say yes. Now, when it comes to existing love relationship, things are just rolling along as usual. Mercury's not making an aspect with Jupiter, but they are in harmonious signs. So everything's just moving along. You know, the relationship is going as it's been going. I think there's a little less contention right now because of this harmony in the signs, and this will get better. There's some more opportunities for closeness and strengthening the relationship, but they're outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Saturn that is making an exact opposition to Mercury, which is very much that you may feel that when you say, I'm going to go make money this way, that somebody pops up and says, no, you can't do that. Like, if you're receiving some sort of direct opposition, the one thing that you can tell is you're going the right direction, because that's the way that this aspect works. It is somebody says, no, you're not going the right way. And then they look at what you're doing and go, oh, wait, you are right. You are going the right way. So if you are moving towards a path for making more money and you feel that somebody's standing in your way, just thank them, because they are the signpost that, yes, you need to continue moving forward. When it comes to money derived from business or from your investments, you're making a little bit more than usual. the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn. It does say take care of the paperwork, look at what needs to be done, like did you call the clients or did they get the automated reminders or things like that, because the moon is lighting up your house of paperwork, and that includes communication of all types. You know, like paperwork's our old-fashioned way of saying communication. So there is a potential to make more money than usual, just a smidge more than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. I do really like your house of career right now. That is excellent because Mars is there making that exact trine to Jupiter in your house of work. So I think you could have a beneficial conversation about your trajectory in your career with your boss or your spouse or anybody. I think you could get some good information. It's tough to get a raise right now because there's no aspect and there's nothing in that house. That will all change later this year, so stay tuned. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this full moon lighting up your house of money. That means that the money is there and now there's a spotlight on it, so it's just time to go in and grab it. So that is to ask yourself, what are the obvious ways that I could make money right now? What are the non-obvious ways I could make money right now? Because either way, you're going to find some opportunities that are coming to you. And so you just need to, shine that spotlight on your money, and there you'll find it. Now, when it comes to Pluto, Pluto has been going through your sign for a long time, so you're very familiar with Pluto. We're talking about Pluto, though, and the power dynamic now because it is making that exact square to the nodes, giving you a choice. You're at a crossroads. Because this is all about you taking back your power, and so you need to look at the different relationships that you have, the different collaborations you're doing, and ask yourself, are you empowered by this or are you giving them all of the power? You have the choice with this square to go do something new and different and empowering, or to go back into old habits that are not so beneficial. And so that's where your choice is. But Pluto is in your sign. That means that Pluto is asking to give you power. It is saying, if you don't feel like you have the power, then figure out what it is that you need to do to get that power, to feel like it's yours, because it's sitting there ready for you to take. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. There is some interesting energy here, but it leans more towards a physical type of relationship, so not long-term. If you're looking for a one-night stand, that can happen, but if you're looking for a long-term relationship, you're not necessarily going to find someone in this 2-week period, so you may just want to wait. Now, for existing love relationships, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn, so there is an opportunity to get a little bit closer by dealing with some of the small things, either by dealing with small things together, like cooking together or doing laundry together or something like that, or not letting small things trip you up, finding better solutions for things as opposed to asking the other person to change, instead suggesting, like, if there's a problem with the thermostat, like they want it down, you want it up, or something like that, maybe there needs to be some sort of different thermostat, or zones, or that you get a little electric blanket or something like that. There's other solutions that are external to the relationship that you could look at this time. Now, when it comes to friendship, Saturn's making an out-of-sign semi-sextile to Pluto. So there is some sort of opportunity, there is an opportunity here for friendship. It's a little like, it's not very obvious. So this means like going to a meeting of like you've never been to before. Like you're really into embroidery and you go to Monster Trucks. But there at Monster Trucks, there is a friend, and for some reason they do embroidery. It's something odd like that. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money both from that Uranus, which is still in your house of creativity and self-expression and risk-taking, as well as Saturn, which is in your house of communication. And Saturn's making an exact opposition to Mercury. That means that something that you've been working on needs to be expressed. And so that means to launch your marketing or your website. Even if you don't feel it's done, especially if you don't feel it's perfect yet, maybe do some sort of small launch, because once it's out there, you'll spot the mistakes. And then you can scramble and get those done. So, but if perfectionism especially has been holding you back, this is a time to say, ta-da, here it is. Now, when it comes to money derived from business or from investments, even though the sun's not making an aspect with Uranus, the full moon is lighting up these houses, so it's likely you're going to make more money than usual. That is, these are probably things that you've been working on a while, but now the paycheck is coming. It may feel like you have to nail down the paycheck because there's no aspect, and that's important. Like, you know, if somebody says they're going to pay, check to make sure that the payment went through. Otherwise, you do look like you're making more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, and that would be like a paycheck, Saturn's making a semisextile, an out-of-sign semisextile to Pluto, not the strongest of aspects. Now, you've had opportunities in the past and will have them in the future where you get a double aspect, and so you might want to wait for that. If this is something that's been in motion for a while and the person wants to sit down with you to discuss the raise, you can, but recognize that they may nickel and dime you. And so you want to be ready so that you can get the maximum raise with this weaker aspect. Okay, Aquarius. This is your full moon, which marks the halfway point of your lunar year, and you now will do 3 months of a harvest period. And what that's about is that the things that you've been working on for the last 6 months, now you need to assess what you can gain from those. And that might mean that, you know, you're updating your resume, or you are looking at what you're charging in your business and charging more. Maybe looking at friendships and saying, hey, we've been friends for a while, let's go do something together, or, you know, let's put together a party. So there's something where things can come to fruition now, and this is longer than the 2-week period, so enjoy. Now, Pluto, which we've been talking about the power dynamic, is going through your house of spirituality and intuition. That's fantastic. But this is also the house of addictions and unconscious behavior. And we're talking about Pluto now because of that square to the North Node, South Node, which it means that you're actually at a test point, or you're at a decision point. And so you might want to look at what you're doing that you feel is unconscious, or the things that keep repeating day after day after day, and seeing if you can break out of a rut. Additionally, this is a time where you may feel enhanced intuition, enhanced psychic ability, and you want to be present for that, you know, so that would be meditation and journaling about your experiences. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Uranus, but you do have relationship houses lit up with this full moon. So therefore, it's possible that somebody's asking you out, but because you're not doing an aspect, either it's just not clicking that they're asking you out, or you're not sure about going out with them. So you may be kind of dragging your heels about saying yes. That's perfectly okay. But if somebody nudges you and says, this is your opportunity, you might want to consider taking it. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though the sun's not making an aspect with Uranus, again, you're doing the full moon in these houses. Venus is retrograde back into your house of relationships. So you have an opportunity to come together. Whoops. Sorry, I got a little too expressive there. So one of the things that I did want to mention is with an opposition, which a full moon is a natural opposition, you're either, you know, coming together, you know, finding a way to compromise and connect, or you're on opposite sides, and therefore it's like one of you wins and the other loses, or vice versa. And so you want to continually move to the center of whatever the issue is so you can find that common ground. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune in your house of money, as well as Jupiter, which is doing an exact trine to Mars, which is also in a money house. So you have really good energy right now for manifesting something. And I think that the thing that's the strongest right now is your confidence. And that is you can tap in and pull in more confidence to go ask for the sale or ask for, the best broker to help you, or to, launch, well, you're not launching because it's a full moon, but to, put out maybe something about your business so that it can be seen by more people. So you're doing some very good energy for making money over this next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from business or from investments, even though Mercury's not making an aspect with Neptune, you have Mercury and Mars in that house. So I think that it's quite strong for making more money. I think because there's no aspect going on quite yet, that means that the money is promised, like the invoice is sent. You haven't quite received it yet, but the profits are coming. So you do want to lean in over this next 2 weeks and sell, sell, sell if that's the business you're in, because the money will be coming in and then you will have money. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, Jupiter's making a semi-square to Neptune. Semi-square is a harder aspect, but it is still an aspect, which means that you could get more money in your career, like get a raise or get a bonus or win something. And so you do want to push forward if that's your goal. This is also good if you are negotiating a salary, like you've gotten the job, but you're still doing the fine tuning on the salary. This is a good time to ask for what it is you want. You may have to back off a little bit, but you'll get more than if you asked for nothing. Okay, Pisces, you're doing this full moon in your house of psychic ability, intuition, spirituality, and connections with the universe, something you're very, very comfortable with and familiar with. And so this is a time where that is just expanding. It's also possible, because it's lit up, that other people are noticing your natural abilities. But sometimes you yourself just have to be reminded. So it's likely over the next 2 weeks you have increased psychic connection with people, but also animals and nature. And so you may be feeling, more connected with the universe in general. Now, when it comes to Pluto, and we've been talking about the power dynamic, it's going through your house of friendships, but also groups, organizations, and the future. So when it comes to friendships, maybe there's a little power dynamic going on, and, perhaps you're thinking, well, I'll just let them win because that gives us peace sooner. But maybe this is a time to push back a little bit. Additionally, with groups and organizations, you may be looking at it and say, is this group really giving me something? You might have been with a group for years. This is a very slow aspect. You might even be in a board position, but you might say to yourself, I don't know if I'm really getting the value out of this anymore. And so you might be making a decision, because that Pluto is making the square to the North Node and South Node. But when it comes to your future, this is where I think you could really empower yourself by starting to look at your future by going way out on your timeline and saying, all right, well, what am I going to be doing at 100? And not putting in negative thoughts, but putting in, dynamic, fun things that you could be doing, and then say, okay, what am I going to be doing from 90 to 100? And what's that decade like? What's my decade of 80 to 90 going to be like? And just keep going back to the age that you are. That is a very empowering thing to do. It plants seeds with the universe so that the universe can bring you opportunities. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's making a semi-square to Neptune, which is an aspect, is not the easiest one. And the moon is in a hidden house. So it's almost like somebody's asking you out, but maybe you're not noticing. Or maybe you would be asked out, but you're not going to the party. So if you are looking for love, you do want to, accept the invitation or invite somebody to coffee or something like that. You have to take a little bit of an action, and maybe you don't want to because it's a semi-square. But you get to decide on that. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune. You do have them in relationship houses, just haven't quite lined up yet, which to me says that the two of you are kind of starting to think about what you want to work on or what could bring the two of you closer together, but it's not necessarily time to do it yet. You're too busy or you haven't quite got it formulated in your mind. It's going to be coming up in one of these, new moon, full moons in the future. So just stay tuned. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Mars, which is in your house of connections, relationships, mentors, collaborators, partners, all of that. And it's making an exact trine to Jupiter in your house of communication. So it is about saying what it is that you want. Tell people what you do. Just talk about what you're offering and money could come to you. But also suggest to people what you want. Well, like how they can help you. You want to collaborate with somebody, all of that. This is a time to work on things you've already been working on. So this might be, there is some back and forth going on between you and this influencer. Now's the time for the ask. Or that you've been doing your business for a while, so now's the time to raise your prices. Now, when it comes to money derived from business or from investments, Mars is not making an aspect with Venus. And so you do have some very good money opportunities, but the actual money isn't quite reaching your hands yet. When we don't have an aspect, especially in this case, because Venus is retrograde, so Mars and Venus are moving farther apart, it can mean that the person needs more time to pay, or that you do have to kind of chase them down. They promise to pay, but you check PayPal and it's just not there yet. So you might want to keep an eye on that, because with that separating aspect, which will come together in the future, but right now it feels like the money is something you have to grab for. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. And again, this will line up in the future, but right now it's likely you're going to get a no, even if you have started talking about this. So if you already have the meeting set up to talk about a raise or something like that, just bump the meeting out. You're going to do better in the future. Even if you don't know when that is. Of course, like you can come and have a reading and we can talk about good times for doing this. But in the meantime, this is not a good time. So just bump it out a couple of weeks. And as we talk about the new moon in a couple of weeks, then you can see if that is going to be a better time. I think it's going to at least be a little bit better. So. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.